Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Dayton Community Preservation Committee regular meeting. It is Thursday, September 19th, 2024. We are in person at the Primetime Building and available via Zoom. This meeting is also being recorded and can be viewed at a later date on the Town of Dayton YouTube channel. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Committee member introductions. I'm Kevin Smith, Chairman and Parks and Rec Director.
Alicia Wilson, Vice Chair, Member at Large.
Back Gales Historical Commission.
Dan Higgins, Planning Board.
Jill Calder, Housing Authority.
Paul Ross, Conservation Commission.
Alright, so first up, we have approved the prior meeting minutes. Everybody received those from Elizabeth, right? You see that?
Good evening.
We just finished up.
Second the motion to adjourn.
Well, we just started, so get ready to do meeting minutes. Entertain a motion for this one. So everybody's ready? Just repeat.
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next up, we have financial reports. And David sent us out an updated copy, and then,
All right, and if anyone like,
yeah, if you don't mind.
so the front side of this shows which is, it says contract, shows the balances in the current categories, current balances in the categories, and it does include, there as you can see, the annual town meeting articles. If you look over to CPA projects there, that column refers to the projects that have been approved. And so that money is basically already allocated. So when you look all the way over to the remaining year to date, you need to subtract that, the 591, 327, 64. And that will tell you how much money we have that is not allocated to projects right now. That's our total. Now, if you go over to the backside, we have the summary of what goes into those allocated amounts, that 591, 327, 64. So that's at the top of the page, labeled active articles. And so you can see she's done a great job there of summarizing how much has already been spent and how much is still to be spent based on past town meeting articles.
Hello, folks.
Good evening.
Yeah, it looks like there's a couple of these that haven't quite caught up, like I know, so we, the electrical panels at Lincoln Village, we paid that invoice, I think 2 months ago that got submitted. So that should, the remaining balance is really,
Okay,
it should have been expensed completely, but we just might have not caught up with record keeping.
right, that won't affect the overall total.
No, I'm just saying.
That's good to know that,
That, yeah, that has been completely
and
expensed.
finally,
Yeah, so we actually should see that at some point, probably when accounts close out, cause I know Serena's working on closing out accounts for the end of the fiscal year, so that'll probably end up bouncing back down into the fully expended articles, probably once she finishes the books for the year, so.
As you said at the previous meeting, Kevin, that you did not expect to use up entirely between the two North Dayton playground items, the full 18,000 or so that's still available to them.
So on fencing and fence and lighting, that was like an older article and we did. So what happened with that, just to kind of recap everybody, is we had engaged Bristol Plymouth to do the work. All the material has been purchased. We engaged Bristol Plymouth to do the work, but we engaged them like in the fall. It ran into the winter, kind of got shut down because of the climate, but then they didn't re-engage to complete it, so it's kind of like at, I would say, probably 25% completion as far as, well, the fencing is done. The lighting is what remains. We have to at some point, we were trying to iron out different ways to do it, but I think we're at the point where we'll probably have to engage the town electrician to just go in and finish it. I still don't think we're gonna spend all of that whole 10. North Dayton Playground, same thing there, I think there's one section of fencing to go up that pertains to the playground. That just didn't happen this summer, but that's like another small thing, so that's, I wanna say that was like around $1,800. And then it's highway department work, so there won't be any installation costs there, so yeah, so those two articles that pertain to the playground area should not be, I don't plan to have expended either one of those in full. There should be a balance.
And are we still waiting on more information for the $200,000 reimbursement for 207 Main Street, like how it's gonna work? And we couldn't even really know how they were gonna make it happen.
I think the biggest holdup there is that the library building committee has been waiting finalized plans so they can go through the procurement process and engage contractors, and that's,
But they're gonna pay back in pieces as they do the work type of thing.
I believe so. So, and actually, unfortunately, we were starting to iron that stuff out, and that was right when Mike left, because we were trying to figure out, do we have to keep that money there? The CPC funding in place, and then it'll get reimbursed to us, or it can be used the general fund. So those details kind of got lost when Mike stepped out, so, again, it's like, it's not really hurting us unless we have some massive project that we need to fund, but I think we can,
Just trying to think about our total availability.
Right.
It's coming, it just hasn't arrived, that reimbursement, but it's.
correct, yeah, cause I don't think we'll see that reimbursement until the work's completed anyway, so.
Right,
You know.
because usually the state it's reimbursement, so you have to expend the funds first,
Gotcha.
and then they reimburse you for it, so on that HVAC, we're waiting on some engineering plans, and then, for it to go up to bid. The project is a little behind where they anticipated, and, but with that grant, it is open-ended, it doesn't have to be expended by a certain date, so,
But you have to expend it before you get it.
right, most.
One way or the other, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is good to know that it doesn't expire, cause that's usually what gets
Is
you
that
in
one
a
of
pickle
the big
is,
questions?
Oh,
yeah, if you,
Yeah.
yeah, it's almost like a permanent earmark for that purpose.
So down here, when you look at the phase 2 for the survey, there's a note here that says, 12,500 reimbursement from the state. We did get a grant for that, so there will be no reimbursement from the state for that phase 2. It was just on the phase 1 that we did.
Right, well, then that one's been expensed and closed out, so.
But there's no reimbursement coming from the state.
Liquid bulbs.
We could always hope, right?
You did get it on phase one though, right?
On phase one, yeah,
that's right.
that should come back to you.
We kind of segued right into project updates anyway, so I'll just ask this question too. So on the newer, the historical property identification, didn't you say that you received a lower quote than what you guys originally?
Yeah, contract is for 2,500. So, for Stacy Spies, that contract is signed and she's already begun working on it. She should be in town probably beginning of October doing, a little more research and stuff, so that's on track, that project's on track.
Very good. Well, and then too, just to go to the Pleasant Street boat ramp, is still kind of in limbo for the same reasons that we were starting to engage and talk about it more, but then when Mike left, it kind of threw us off track there, so I gotta get back on track with the Board of Selectmen and talk more about that project and where we're at. That. I don't think, I'm not aware that the Trails Committee is, I could follow up with Jeff to see if they've done anything yet on the Broad Cove project. I'm not sure if anybody's heard anything. I haven't heard that they've engaged any contractors or started anything with that project yet, but we can follow up so that we have some more information on that in our next meeting. Is that it for financial?
Yeah, so, do we have any kind of thought of a schedule for the library? Is that just kind of like when will it open?
Oh, they're looking at, August 2025 for, occupancy and to be open. So that's the, what we're aiming for now. The insides, they've done some work on the inside, what's his name, Plan B Construction, they did the outside the shingles, so they've been doing some of the work on the front steps and lunch and stuff, yeah.
I've seen that down there every day,
Yeah,
come along, a long ways.
Yeah, I think as far as we're concerned, we'll probably see the HVAC, like as it pertains to our funding, the HVAC will probably be completed prior to opening, so we'll probably have more information as it pertains to us
I would expect that
before,
it's,
or well before.
I know Jim's working on that, to get that going.
So does anybody else, so we'll move on to old business, the first thing we had was just project updates, but I think we kind of covered everything under financial reports, unless anybody has anything else. So we'll skip right on to the Dayton Housing Authority's application of eligibility. I had sent out some information to you guys that the director had sent out to us. One thing, that additional document that was sent, but I could not get to, it just would not forward, it was too big, it was like a 600 and something megabyte, 16 megabyte, 260 page document, so I just couldn't get it to
That's
move
okay.
along.
Don't hit print.
Yeah, but just so you guys know, so you know, I'm gonna pull it up, I'm gonna share my screen quick, so it's up there. Just so everyone's aware of what the document was. So it was pretty much the entire invitation to bid. The whole entire project manual. And I did try my best to really read through a fair amount of it the other night. So according to the table of contents, there was a summary of work, but the summary of work was broken down, so we're gonna scroll through about 100 pages of just contractual stuff about wages and things like that. So there was a very little bit about the work, but it pertained more to the work to be performed and some asbestos abatement. It didn't really, in my opinion, fill in any blanks for us. We got references.
Good luck if you can read it.
But essentially what was sent to us was, this is pretty much the contractor documents to bid the project. There wasn't anything that really spoke on the current conditions, it was more explaining the details of the work to be done, so I just wanted to make everybody aware that we did have this, but it didn't really have any pertinent information, so. By the time I find it, comes, maybe. Yeah, so even in the summary of work, it pretty much just outlined, that all work either shown on the drawings or included in the specifications. The project shall consist of, but not limited to, the removal of exterior vinyl siding system, exterior windows, and installation of new component siding system and inviting window assemblies. Asbestos abatement activities are required for this project. Contractor shall be responsible for providing and paying for a construction administration software application to be used by all participants. And that was, the building will be occupied during construction. So there's really no mention of the current conditions, it's more on the construction end of things. Get out of that quick. And I will, I'll pull up the other one now, real fast, and this one done. Which had the drawings and such. So this one does kind of provide at least a little bit of something as far as, what needs to be done. Again, it doesn't really have much mention of the current condition, it just shows you that, the demolition of each window, it does give you the current condition, so what siding exists, the wood trim, wood windows, and then it just shows you what it'll be replaced with, but there's no real mention of the condition outside of the letter from the project manager. Which I can open up the floor to comments on that. I felt like, again, it put us right back in our original dilemma where it talked about, they're not easy to use, it's an efficiency issue. So it's like it kinda, I still would have liked to seen some form of evidence that there was detrimental effect on the building envelope because of these, but it didn't sound like that was the main focus to me.
I agree.
Couple of quick questions, if I could. Do we know if these windows have ever been reconstructed in the past, number one? And number two, has anyone, because I haven't, unless I missed it in documents that you sent out before, do we know, regardless of the contract there, have they put in for any state or federal funds for this project? And do they have an anticipation on any of that?
No, because that's irrelevant to application of eligibility, so we haven't even asked that question yet. That's when that's kind of what we went through the first time we reviewed this, is some of the questions that we have are funding questions, not eligibility questions, so what they applied for is, again, irrelevant. We're just making that determination whether or not we view this as a maintenance project, which would make it ineligible, or there is a detriment to the building envelope and that which makes it eligible.
I guess that was part of the reason for my first question, is in terms of the ability. I'd like to know if this has ever been done before or if this is first time.
So we did have, let's see if I can, that, in his letter, it did mention,
It just says wood shingle siding shows signs of deterioration and water intrusion. But then when it talks about the windows, it's about their inefficiency, not working properly. So the only truly deterioration and structural issue they talk about is those wood shingle siding that he spells out in here.
Mhm. Is there a note in there when building was built, or that might have been in the original
The
application,
siding was
right?
done afterwards, after it was built.
Right, so
Because
the
they had
siding
big
has-
cracks in the side, so they had to cover that up, so they put the siding.
Well, and if there's asbestos present, I would assume at some point there was asbestos siding and, you know, portions of it were replaced or covered over. So again, I just personally, I'm leaning more towards this falls outside of the parameters of CPA and it's things that should have been addressed during regular maintenance, it's not. But that's, like, again, that's my opinion.
That's how I feel too, based upon the letter. It seems more that it's efficiencies and regular maintenance and, you know, changing out windows that have run their course, not that it's actually causing any structural deficiencies to the building itself.
Right, I concur, that's my impression too, I saw a lot more in the letters about energy efficiency than I did about any kind of, you know, structural integrity or actual physical deterioration of the building.
I guess I'm trying to wrap my head around whether or not for the application, there's an historical component that we need to consider, and
It's
I'm
not
not
a
very,
historical application.
I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around what the need is of anything above efficiency.
Well, it's an affordable housing project, that's the only determination is how it fits into the affordable housing component of CPA eligibility. It's really, we can't we're not piggybacking on multiple things to make it work, I guess would be the best way to put it.
They sent an additional letter, which I'm looking for and I can't find now, but you would send it out to everyone. They sent an additional letter or note, like really going into detail on the CPC eligibility rules and how this fit. Remember that? I believe they did.
So no, I sent out the guidelines and we had a kind of deep conversation about not leading, a horse to water type of thing. But we did ask, when we asked, the only letter that we received is what Dan had just mentioned, which was sent out as part of this packet from the
So that was the one that came as a secondary email.
Secondary
Right
email,
after
correct,
the,
yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one that I
The
forgot to
one
attach.
from the manager of the project.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought there was one back at the time of the first brought it to the committee.
No, I think in the eligibility, in their original application, they kind of checked off the boxes on their own. That it fell under those determinations, but it hasn't quite worked out that way with it.
Yeah.
It really fits the parameters of everything that we've read. Again, too, just kind of, as a general kind of thought is, because it's a state aided facility and wasn't created with our funds, we kind of were a little bit handcuffed. If it was something that was created with CPA funds, then we could have done this all day long.
We didn't
So you-
exist at the time.
Right, but just so everyone's aware, so if we ever did create some form of affordable housing, we do have the ability to maintain it. It's the only category that you can really maintain, but it would have to be created with CPA funds, so. Just kind of moving forward, as if those things ever do happen, we do have the capability, it's just not on this particular project.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I wasn't at the original meeting when this was presented. My question is, unless I'm again missing something, has anyone from the Housing Authority directly addressed our board at all to discuss this with us in person? Because, I'm inclined to reject it personally, but I'd like to hear from them personally, what their rationale and what their reasoning is for submitting other than just what's on paper.
No, the only correspondence we've had is the application itself and then the additional documents that were sent by the director. So nobody has made a formal presentation. But I think almost at this point, we would kind of, even if we brought somebody in, it would be a conversation trying to steer it towards eligibility, where we think we've seen enough to know that it's, not eligible.
And that's not our job, really.
Right. I think it would be somebody trying to convince us to,
Right, we don't.
I think they would have done it in the
turn
application
the
if they
parameter, make the parameters a little bit more gray
Yeah.
to fit it in. it would be kind of what we're.
Right, we don't wanna be in the position of inadvertently coaching somebody through their application.
Right, which was what we kind of said in the first point was, we don't want to reply and be like, oh, well, you know, this is what you need.
If only the windows leaked.
Yeah, exactly.
When you read their description in the project summary, they're talking about that this is a part of a plan. You know, they've already done building A and building B is next.
Mhm.
You know, so it's all part of their maintenance plan. That's the way it's looking to me.
Every building will have to be done
Right,
eventually, so.
and the goal is to make them more energy efficient. She said so they're stating what the goal is not to
Preserve the building.
preserve the building, it's to make it more energy efficient. So this is a maintenance plan that they've already done some work on, and they're proceeding, what are there, 3 buildings there? A, B, and C,
Yeah,
or D,
excuse me, the
A, B, C, and D,
to A, as it goes in the ABC
Yeah.
to H,
H, yeah.
right behind.
So it's part of their maintenance plan.
Maintenance, right, so yeah, it's pretty well outlined that it's a maintenance issue, not that the building is failing in any way.
Yeah, and then they throw the word long-term preservation at the end, of the buildings, and the buildings are 50 years old.
Mhm.
They were constructed in 1974.
They have other funds available too, because they're all electric. Go to the electric company and say, we're all electric.
Yeah, well, with that too, and I think that's a whole nother conversation, if it would have transpired into that it's a state-funded facility, so there should be a maintenance plan to address these things
Oh, yeah.
regardless. I think, due to our limited funding, it would be
If they were building it now.
it would be a tough
Yeah.
sell for me to approve funding, just to be honest.
Yeah.
We need a motion to deny.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to deny the application as written for the housing authority.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
And Jonathan,
Any opposed? No abstentions?
I'm sorry to abandon everybody, but I'm gonna catch another meeting
All
now.
right, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
More
Yeah,
important than us.
For 810, we know.
Have a great day, everybody.
All right, so next up, we have new business. Review, discuss, and act the historical commission's application of eligibility for the Mount Hope, finishing National Register of Historic Places.
That's a mouthful.
Yes, I'm not gonna block you, so you can get on camera.
The floor is yours, Matt.
As you know, we've been doing our surveys, and the Mount Hope area came out, the preservation consultant recommended that it met, in her opinion, could possibly meet some of the criteria to qualify for the National Register of Historic Places. So, the commission went ahead and submitted the request to the Mass Historical Commission, and we got word in April that they did consider that there was enough architectural integrity in the area still to be considered as eligible for the National Register. So what we're asking for is for Stacy Spies to complete this work, to complete the nomination packet that has to go to the Mass Historical Commission. And they review it, so they'll review the nomination form, and the cost is $8,500. So the process is that Stacy will work on it, and we're gonna use Stacy again, because she's familiar with Dayton, she's done all our other surveys, she's working on West Dayton. It doesn't have to go out to bid because it's under 10,000. So, she will, answer some of the questions that Mass Historical Commission had, provide the pictures that are needed, some maps, it'll go to the front, and then she submits it and presents it to the Mass Historical Commission. They review it and they submit it to the State Review Board. At that point, the state review board takes a look at it and they will say yes or no. Whether it can go to the National Parks Service to be looked at the federal level. This process can take up to 2 years right now. She figures it would take 30 weeks to get the nomination form, put together and into the Mass Historical Commission, and then it would take up to 2 years from there. So just so you know, the National Register was established in 1966. It was under the National Historic Preservation Act. Like I said, it's administered by the National Park Service and the Massachusetts Historical Commission. It encourages preservation. It doesn't guarantee it. Although you have to have the architectural exterior integrity in the area for it to be considered. Once it's on the register, there's no obligation for the owner to maintain the property. They can do whatever they want to it. If they can demolish it, they can add on to it. It could change the status, but the National Park Service and the Historical Commission, they're so swamped with stuff that would take like forever. So there's no restrictions on property owners. This is just an honorary designation. So municipalities and nonprofits that are in that area, if you're in a National Register district, you can apply for grant funding under the National Register. There are some federal tax incentives to that may apply to income producing properties that are in the area. And it's kind of to encourage a capital investment in, the rehabbing of historic properties. So, like something could, a business could go into and they put the building back up, maybe a storefront on the bottom, apartments on the top, whatever your configuration is, so it revitalizes the area. I was thinking about Mount Hope and I was like, oh my, what could they do there? Of course, I don't have the money to invest, so never mind.
Can I just interrupt you and ask you, what exactly does this encompass? Cause like we're saying district.
So for the Mount Hope area, it's like where the factory is and what's considered Mount Hope Village, which is some of Pearl Street, Mount Hope Street, Bedford Street, Andrews Street, Chase Street, Park Street's on it, Bow Street, is that little area that's there. You get to Bailey Street, those houses are not considered in the Mount Hope Village area, even though at one point in time, Mount Hope did own that land. But some of those houses are more from the 1940s, 1950s, so they're a little bit later.
Okay.
So it's like that little nucleus area, where you see a lot of the houses that look the same, the ones on Chase Street. There's a couple that are actually over the Taunton line on Summer Street, it becomes South Walker Street, there's one or two that Mass Historical Commission said to kind of pull in because they are Mount Hope houses. And also to take a look at what was Devine's Farm, because the farm was part of Mount Hope. There are probably 4 smaller houses that were on that part that's across from the plant. It's all trees now. Originally, there was probably about 4 very small houses that were there. They have been moved. One is a garage, I think, on Andrews Street, and one is on Autumn Street, that I don't know where the other 2 went to. So that they would be included.
Those parks have some historic significance in the
Right,
city too,
so-
because of the designer.
Right, because Olmsted Brothers did those parks and they did the plantings around the houses. So that is another possible criterion that, under a landscape architect, that the Mount Hope area could, qualify as a National Register. So it's a significant history, and it's something we should be very proud of. The biggest thing that is important and what people don't realize is the difference between the National Register what we're asking for here in a local historic district. So when you do a local historic district, that is by local town bylaw, so it would come in front of a town meeting. And that too is a lot of discussion with property owners, with town boards as to whether that kind of district is really necessary and needed for your town. And that again takes a long time to do.
We have the Wharves District, right? Which,
That's a national register.
oh, that's national,
That's a
oh,
national.
okay.
Dayton does not have any local historic districts right now,
Mm-hmm.
so.
When you were speaking about the opportunity for grants or any kind of monies for preservation purposes, that would include the town itself, for example, the fire station.
Right.
The town does not own the park in front of the mill, although there's been talk from various owners from time to time about donating it if were to come into the town. There may be funds available to help maintain that, reuse it in another fashion, whatever, that's also true.
I'm not sure about all that, yeah. But, once the municipalities own it, it opens up some of that grant money.
That looks like this includes some pretty good opportunity, possible opportunities. That
Yeah,
coincide
there are
with this.
possible opportunities, which I think are worth exploring.
Well, I think too, if this all works out, it does if you encourage the property owner to restore it, at least externally, to its original, and then the inside can be.
The
Yeah.
insides are not, when it's in a district, with the National Register district, they just look at the exterior.
Right. And that's what I mean, like
Yeah.
you could transform the interior to whatever you wish, but it would be nice to see it keep its character.
Right,
Which I think is one concern about the possible progression of that portion of town, is that the look is gonna change.
the look will change, the look is already starting to change, because you have some homes that were, part of the worker houses and all of that have been remodeled at this point to such a point, they don't have the integrity anymore, the architectural exterior integrity. If you were looking at just a single home, the interior would be looked at as far as if it's still, historic, I think there's a lot of questions, because people put, in, vinyl siding and, the vinyl windows and it's a decision that the homeowner has to make versus, windows that are leaky and all of that versus energy efficient, so there is a dilemma, but there are also ways to do it, that it looks historic still, that it keeps the integrity.
Yeah, I think when you do place that tag on it though, I think people become more mindful of trying,
Right.
I think downtown Newport is a great example. I've been a part of some pretty extensive rehabilitation projects down there, but the exterior of the house,
Right,
is still, preserved, the historic value is still preserved, so I think when you get into that type of neighborhood, people tend to wanna
yeah,
carry on that legacy.
So if I could ask a couple of questions, and I'm probably easier since instead of back and forth for me as usual to ask my questions first, which is one of the questions will be, could this, by doing anything, potentially have any effect on any zoning ordinances locally in that area in the future? If there was ever a thought of changing any of the zoning, have an effect on this. Another question I would have is, by doing this, what does that potentially open that area up to with regard to future state or federal grants or National Registry grants or anything like that for other restoration projects? Because it seems to me in that respect, this could be an advantage to do as well. I'll start with those two for now. I don't know if you could answer either of them.
the zoning, I don't know, I don't know.
I can answer the zoning.
You can answer.
The only way to change the zoning is to propose a zoning bylaw change and bring it before a town meeting, and it needs to pass by 2/3. So I don't think, say if there was the attitude of the town was to change the zoning and this tied into that in some way, it could be helpful, it could be hurtful, I don't know. But that's, it
Yeah.
would essentially have no effects on our bylaw, that would have to come within town meeting.
Right, and as far as your second question had to do with grants and stuff, the grants that become available are to, the municipalities who come to the town or nonprofits that were situated in the area that had a historic, building. And that would be for the renovation of that building. There are some tax incentives, like I said, at the federal level for revitalization. Unfortunately, for the homeowner, there isn't any incentives to grants or anything available.
And for commercial,
Would it,
No, as far as I know, it has to be either by town or the nonprofits. The taxes though probably could for commercial, but that would have to be,
no, I just meant
yeah,
revitalizing the mill itself, the property owner. If this were to pass, does that help him in any way, that whoever that future owner is, and in terms of revitalizing the mill structure,
they could go for grants.
they could go for grants, yes, okay.
is there any chance that we're imposing any undue restrictions on homeowners by doing this?
No. Because once you have the National Register designation, the homeowner is not obligated to do anything. They do not have to keep their property up, they don't have to paint it, they don't have to keep the lawn up, they can just let it rot.
So they could demolish it if they so choose.
They could demolish it if they so choose. Of course, we would all scream, but.
Well, that's the thing, they're trying to establish a culture of
Yeah.
historic preservation in
Right.
that area, so,
It's a beginning,
right.
yeah.
Well, I would just say, because all we have on here for tonight is eligibility, and I think it's evident that it's eligible because it's in line with the smaller surveys you've done. I will just kind of bring up that if we do have, I don't know, timeline wise, if this is something that can wait till we turn the corner and go towards June, or if it's something that, you know, you guys were of the attitude that you wanted to move a little bit more quickly on. 'Cause
We
what-
wanted it done yesterday.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying what we could do is, I know town meeting warrants close on the 23rd. We can put a placeholder, and if we adjust our October meeting to talk about funding, we can, you know, squeeze it in if need be, if that's okay with the committee.
That would
We
be
can-
lovely, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a long time, you know, till June is a long time to wait.
Just, I did just have a question, just to be clear. So of the 8,500, is it that 7,500 is for the Spice Historic Preservation Consultant, and $1,000 is part of the fee for filing with the state? Or is the entire 8,500 part of the survey costs?
The 85, that's the total cost that will go to Stacy.
State, okay, that was my concern, I just didn't know, because if there was $1,000 fee for filing, I wasn't sure that that would
Right.
be covered, but if it's the
Right,
entire
she
amount
said
of the
it's, you
survey.
know,
Okay,
payable at the time of the presentation to the state review, so we have to pay her for the bulk of it done. And then when she wraps it up at the state review,
Okay.
the
I
balance.
just want to make sure it was all for the survey, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the historical commission's application of eligibility.
Motion to approve the historical application of eligibility.
Second.
Presented.
You gotta do something with that title.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Got
Opposed?
All right, thank you. Just so you know, on Monday, we are meeting with the property owners from North Dayton to talk about this so that we can have the conversation started. And you're more than welcome to join us.
We will that be
Where in
At Old Town Hall, Monday at 7 o'clock at Old Town Hall.
7 o'clock?
And, oh, in October, I won't be here, but Rafa will come over. I'll give him all the notes.
Very good. Yeah, I think we're gonna have the bulk of the information was in your application.
Yeah, so I'll just fill out the form, you
Yep,
know,
yeah.
and send it to you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any other new business? Any public input? I don't think we have anybody else on Zoom. Motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:20.
What was that publicized?
We sent it to, the homeowners, we sent the invitation, a mailing, yeah, and then it's a posted public meeting. We talked about